A true legend of the airwaves, Brian Hay, the influential LBC and BBC radio presenter, has sadly passed away at the age of 87. His death marks the end of an era for British radio, a medium he fundamentally transformed over a career that spanned 5 incredible decades. Many will remember him as the man who reinvented the radio phone-in, turning it from a simple call-in segment into a dynamic and often confrontational public forum. His former colleague at LBC, Steve Allen, broke the news, simply calling him a legend. Another colleague, Jonathan Perry, shared that Brian had been dealing with increasing frailty for several years, but had passed away peacefully in his sleep. These tributes paint a picture of a man deeply respected by those who knew him and worked alongside him. Born in Perth, Australia, in 1937, Brian Hayes started his career in newspapers and broadcasting before making the move to the UK in the early 1970s. He was there at the very beginning of Capital Radio in 1973. Initially as a producer, but it wasn't long before his voice and personality were on the air. However, his big break, the role that would define his legacy, came in 1976 when he became the morning interview and phone-in host on LBC. This is where he truly made his name. Hayes pioneered a style that was unlike anything listeners had heard before. He didn't suffer fools gladly and was famous for giving many callers short shrift. The satirical magazine Private Eye even parodied him. A sure sign you've made it. His approach was simple but revolutionary. Treat every caller like a real person with something important to say, and treat the phone-in like a conversation that truly mattered. He held his callers to the same high standard he held politicians, expecting them to be on their mettle. Reflecting on his time at LBC in a 2003 Guardian interview, Hayes said he'd interviewed countless heroes and villains, from political power players to the greatest artists. But he always had a special place for the informed, lovable, and infuriating Londoners who flooded the phone lines, ready to share their vision for how the world should be run. He famously said they were even prepared for him to argue them into a corner, adding, "Sometimes there was a lot of heat in my kitchen and I loved it." That was Brian Hayes in a nutshell, thriving in the heat of a passionate debate. In the 1990s, his influence spread even wider when he moved to BBC Radio 2. He presented the breakfast program Good Morning UK, a slot he eventually handed over to the returning Terry Wogan. He also hosted the Sony Award-winning weekly Hayes Over Britain. His journey continued into the 2000s on BBC Radio 5 Live and Radio 4, and he even made a return to the LBC airwaves on Sunday nights, coming full circle. Tributes have poured in from across the broadcasting world. TALK TV's Mark Dolan called him the piranha of the airwaves who reinvented the phone-in with stunning success, noting how he ruthlessly treated callers as equals to the Prime Minister. Dan's DJ, Dave Pierce, remembered his LBC show as must-listen radio. Perhaps journalist Paul Rowley, who worked with him at both LBC and the BBC, summed it up best. Ed Coldyers, the best phone-in presenter on British radio, describing him as blunt and forthright on air, but also knowledgeable, fair, and balanced. Whether he was talking to a cabinet minister or George from Hampstead.
Rowley's final words serve as a powerful message. Modern-day broadcasters take note. Brian Hayes was a true trailblazer.
He wasn't just a voice on the radio. He was a force of nature who changed the conversation, quite literally. He gave the public a powerful voice and taught a generation of broadcasters what it means to host a truly engaging and meaningful His legacy will continue to echo across the airwaves for many years to come. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this tribute, please consider subscribing for more stories about cultural icons.